Okay, well, not all equations will graph lines, right? If I look at this next equation here, what is this going to graph? A parabola. How did you know that it was going to graph a parabola? Yes, the x squared means that it's going to be quadratic. So we call this one quadratic, and it's going to graph a parabola. I still will want to set this up the same way. So I'm going to still draw my x-axis using my ruler or straight edge. I'm going to label it the x-axis, and then I can draw my y-axis and also label it y-axis. And then to make a table of values, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did above for the line. I'm going to draw my table. I have my x coordinates. I'm going to plug those x coordinates in to -2 times x squared plus 4, and that will give me my y. And I kind of maybe could have typed out a nicer table, huh? Okay, what would be the easiest point to find first, do you think? 0. And I'm putting that in the middle just so that I'm putting it in order. So if I plug in 0, I'm going to plug in 0 here. I get -2 times 0 squared plus 4. And any ideas what that is? Yeah, 4. Oops, I just meant to write 4 here. I was writing the ordered pairs. 0, 4. So up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then we call that also, that's always, whenever you plug in 0 for x, what are you always finding? What point are you always finding? The y-intercept. So that's really convenient because that's going to go right on our y-axis. Now, I didn't actually put any scale here. -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, so what other points could I use for x? If I'm just plugging in x to create a table of value, what points could I use? Yeah, I could use any ones that I want. Now, you want these numbers to hopefully show up on your graph, right? So what's the easiest number after 1 to square? Or sorry, after 0. I always do that. I'm thinking of the number that I want you to say, and then I say it. 1. So let's try 1. If I plug in 1, I get -2 times 1 plus 4, squared. So 1 squared is 1. 1 times -2 is -2. -2 plus 4 is 2. So my point is 1, 2. So 1, 2, go over 1, up 2. I could also do -1. What do you notice about -1? When I plug it in for x, I'm going to square -1. What happens when you square -1? So don't I get the exact same answer because I get 1 times -2. -2 plus 4 is 2. And that's what a parabola has symmetry. So -1, 2 is here, -1, 2. And already we're starting to see this parabola shape because we said this one is a quadratic, and we know it's a quadratic because of the x squared, right? And the shape is going to be a parabola. What would be another number you would want to plug in to get another point? Probably an easy one would be 2 and -2. Do you notice that if I plug in 2, I get 2 squared plus 4. That's going to be the same thing as if I plug in -2, because once I square that -2, it becomes the same thing, right? So here I have -2 times 4 plus 4. -8 plus 4, and what's that? -4. So what's this answer going to be? Also -4. You can do the math if you want to confirm, okay? So let's go to -4. I go over to 2, down to -4. Here's my point, 2, -4. All right? And I'm going to just draw that. This is going to keep going, so I'm putting an arrow on the end. Same thing over here. There's symmetry. This is what we actually call the axis of symmetry. X equals 0 is the axis of symmetry, because it's the actual line that is cutting the parabola in half. So over here, -2, -4, -2, -4, and I'm just going to keep that going with an arrow. Okay, and we could always talk about domain and range. We've already talked about that in the past with these parabolas, and we'll probably talk about it again in the future too. But is a parabola a function? Something to think about, something to remember. Yes, it is. It is a function, okay? And we can see, what is this point called here, the one that's on the y-axis? You said it's called the y-intercept, but when it comes to a parabola, this point is also called something else. That's a special point because the parabola is going up and then gets to a highest point and then comes back down. So what do you call that maximum point there? The vertex, exactly, the vertex. And the vertex in this case is 0, 4, which is also the y-intercept, just a coincidence, okay? Where it crosses the x-intercepts, what do we call these points? X-intercepts, good. And I don't know exactly what they are. We could figure it out, but we'll be doing that later. Okay, so then if I wanted to look at this on Desmos, if I want to check my graph, okay, I can go, I already actually programmed this one in. So let's look at my little Desmos here. I don't really need the line anymore, but if I go ahead and click on that, no. Okay, let's get rid of the line. And then I'll do my parabola. So you can select it and unselect it. That's why I had it unselected so you wouldn't see it. And we can see some of those points. Again, if I want to do a table of values, I can do that little gear icon, press table, and those are happen to be almost the exact points that I chose as well. And so we can click on the points and we can see those ordered pairs. Any questions about graphing the parabola using a table of values? Okay.